Genesis chapter 49 verse 1 to 33. Verse 1. Then Jacob called his sons and said, "Gather around so I can tell you what will happen to you in days to come." Verse 2. Assemble and listen, sons of Jacob, listen to your father Israel. Verse 3. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, the first sign of my strength, excelling in honor, excelling in power. Verse 4. Turbulent as the waters, you will no longer excel, for you went up unto your father's bed, unto my couch, and defile it. Verse 5. Simeon and Levi are brothers. Their swords are weapons of violence. Verse 6. Let me not enter their council, let me not join their assembly, for they have killed men in their anger, and hamstrung oxen as they please. Verse 7. Cursed be their anger, so fierce, and their fury, so cruel. I will scatter them in Jacob and disperse them in Israel. Verse 8. Judah, your brothers will praise you. Your hands will be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's sons will bow down to you. Verse 9. You are a lion's cub. Judah, you return from the prey. My son, like a lion he crouches and lies down, like a lioness who dares to roast him. Verse 10. The scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until he to whom it belongs shall come, and the obedience of the nations shall be his. Verse 11. He will tether his donkey to a vine, his colt to the choicest branch. He will wash his garments in wine, his robes in the blood of grapes. Verse 12. His eyes will be darker than wine, his teeth whiter than milk. Verse 13. Zebulun will live by the seashores and become a haven of sheep. His border will extend toward Sidon. Verse 14. Issachar is a Reuben donkey lying down among the sheep pens. Verse 15. When he sees how good is his resting place and how pleasant is his land, he will bend his shoulders to the burdens and submit to forced labor. Verse 16. Dan will provide justice for his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Verse 17. Dan will be a snake by the roadside, a viper along the path, that bites the horse's heel so that its rider tumbles backward. Verse 18. I look for your deliverance, Lord. Verse 19. God will be attacked by a band of raiders, but he will attack them at their heels. Verse 20. Asher food will be rich. He will provide delicacies fit for a king. Verse 21. Naphtali is a dew set free that bears beautiful fawn. Verse 22. Joseph is a fruitful vine near a spring, whose branches climb over a wall. Verse 23. With bitterness archers attack him, they shoot at him with hostility. Verse 24. But his bow remained steady, his strong arm stayed, limber because of the hands of the mighty one of Jacob, because of the shepherd, the rock of Israel. Verse 25. Because of your father's God, who helps you, because of the Almighty, who blesses you with blessings of the skies above, blessings of the deep spring below, blessings of the breast and womb. Verse 26. Your father's blessings are greater than the blessings of the ancient mountains, than the bounty of the age-old hills. Let all this rest on the head of Joseph, on the brow of the prince among his brothers. Verse 27. Benjamin is a ravenous wolf. In the morning he devours the prey. In the evening he divides the plunder. Verse 28. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is what their father said to them when he blessed them, giving each the blessing appropriate to him. Verse 29. Then he gave them these instructions: I am about to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave in the field of Ephron the Hittite. Verse 30. The cave in the field of Machpelah, near Mamre in Canaan, which Abraham bought alongs with the field as a burial place from Ephron the Hittite. Verse 31. There Abraham and his wife Sarah were buried. There Isaac and his wife Rebekah were buried. And there I buried Leah. Verse 32. The field and the cave in it were bought from the Hittites. Verse 33. When Jacob had finished giving instructions to his sons, he drew his feet up into the bed, breathed his last, and was gathered to his people. Genesis chapter 50, verse 1 to 26. Verse 1. Joseph threw himself on his father and wept over him and kissed him. Verse 2. Then Joseph directed the physicians in his service to embalm his father Israel. So the physicians embalmed him. Verse 3. Taking a full 40 days, for that was the time required for embalming, and the Egyptians mourned for him 70 days. Verse 4. When the days of mourning had passed, Joseph said to Pharaoh's court, If I have found favor in your eyes, speak to Pharaoh for me, tell him. Verse 5. My father made me swear an oath and said, I am about to die. Bury me in the tomb I dug for myself in the land of Canaan. Now let me go up and bury my father. Then I will return. Verse 6. Pharaoh said, Go up and bury your father, as he made you swear to do. Verse 7. So Joseph went up to bury his father. All Pharaoh's officials accompanied him, the dignitaries of his court and all the dignitaries of Egypt. Verse 8. Besides all the members of Joseph's household and his brothers and those belonging to his father's household, only their children and their flocks and herds were left in Goshen. Verse 9. Chariots and horsemen also went up with him. It was a very large company. Verse 10. When they reached the threshing floor of Atad, near the Jordan, they lamented loudly and bitterly, and there Joseph observed a 70-day period of mourning for his father. Verse 11. When the Canaanites who lived there saw the mourning at the threshing floor of Atad, they said, The Egyptians are holding a solemn ceremony of mourning. That is why that place near the Jordan is called Abel Mizraim. Verse 12. So Jacob's sons did as he had commanded them. Verse 13. They carried him to the lands of Canaan and buried him in the cave in the field of Machpelah, near Mamre, which Abraham had bought along with the field as a burial place from Ephron the Hittite. Verse 14. After burying his father, Joseph returned to Egypt, together with his brothers and all the others who had gone with him to bury his father. Verse 15. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, What if Joseph holds a grudge against us and pays us back for all the wrongs we did to him? Verse 16. So they sent word to Joseph, saying, Your father left these instructions before he died. Verse 17. This is what you are to say to Joseph. I asked you to forgive your brothers the sins and the wrongs they committed in treating you so badly. Now please forgive the sins of the servants of the God of your father. When their message came to him, Joseph wept. Verse 18. His brothers then came and threw themselves down before him. We are your slaves, they said. Verse 19. But Joseph said to them, Don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God? Verse 20. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Verse 21. So then, don't be afraid. I will provide for you and your children. And he reassured them and spoke kindly to them. Verse 22. Joseph stayed in Egypt, along with all his father's family. He lived 110 years. Verse 23. And so the third generation of Ephraim's children, Also the children of Machir, son of Manasseh, were placed at birth on Joseph's knees. Verse 24. Then Joseph said to his brothers, I am about to die, but God will surely come to your aid and take you up out of these lands to the lands he promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Verse 25. And Joseph made the Israelites swear an oath and said, God will surely come to your aid, and then you must carry my bones up from this place. Verse 26. So Joseph died at the age of 110, and after they embalmed him, he was placed in a coffin in Egypt.